Hello, everyone. This is our project, MellowMillionare, a PHP game show. My name is Jay Patel, and my partner is.
Rock Freiberger, it's a pleasure.
First things first, we want to talk about our project structure. Here you can see all of the PHP files we have, and the two folders, includes and data. Now, I want to talk about how the files themselves interact. So, files like index, register, login, dashboard, results, and leaderboard are all pages that our user will be able to see. They output HTML pages. And then we have the folder include folder, which holds the functions.php file, which has all the logic, whether it authenticates something, the file paths for storing and saving and loading. We also have the questions.php file, which holds all the questions, which you'll see later when we do the demo. The data.txt stores all the user information, their scores, and how they rank in the leaderboard. We also have a styles.css page, which shows the same gold Millionaire visual language. You'll see that it's very, very beautiful. And then I want to talk about how the requests work. The browser first requests the login.php, and the PHP reads the post values with filter input and calls verify login in functions.php. And if it is valid, PHP writes a session logged in, and it shows the username at the same time. And in the header, it'll show the location as the dashboard.php, and it sends the next request. And in dashboard.php, it reads the session state and renders player-specific HTML. Why the separation matters is by changing game rules stays inside the PHP block/functions. Changing look and layout mostly stays in HTML and CSS. Now here is how all the parts come together. First things first, a form is sent, user locks in a answer from the HTML form whenever they answer a question. Then that data is sent to PHP processing, which reads the post values, validates the input, and updates the session state. Next is the business logic, where the game rules decide whether the question is where the user entered a correct, wrong, or pass option, or they could either walk away or redirect to the results. Next, we also have the rendered output. So that's when after all the logic is finished, it spits out the output. The next page just shows the updating winnings, the feedback, and the current game state. Next, we have the forms validation and security. So here you can see the register form trace in the register.php file. You used post because we use post here because credentials should not sit in the URL themselves. Validation happens in the server side first. The form then re-renders with a success/error message and using sticky values. Rejects, blocks, the malformed usernames and duplicate usernames are prevented from writing into the file. That way, so whenever your new users sign up, they can't use a username that's already in use. We also have security helpers in our function.php file. HTML special character prevents the XSS when values or messages are echoed back into the HTML. We also have a password hash/password verify, which means passwords are never stored as plain text. So that way your password can never be stolen or never found by anyone besides you. We also have lock.ex reduces the chance of corrupted writes when saving users or leaderboard rows. That's way so our leaderboard data stays consistent and there's no problems or so two people don't have the same rank. That's how that works. We also have unexpected input getting caught and shown as user-friendly feedback instead of breaking the app state itself. So whenever an error does occur, we want you to know what happens, not just, oh, the entire application folds on itself. Next, we have our sessions and cookies. Whenever we have our state in the sessions. So logged in plus username keeps protected pages tied to the current player. Games question stores the 15 question ladder for the current run. Current level and current winnings drives the progress across all the pages. Lifeline, walked away, feedback, game complete, and stored save control the behavior after each post. Login.php clears the array and destroys the session to reset so you can play again.
What Jay was saying is that The whole point of sessions and cookies is just so we don't get lost here, right? So like as a developer, we're looking at it as how can we make sure everything just crosses over to each page, especially when the user will go forward or backwards, regardless of what it is and what their choice is, their logic and data stays the same throughout every page. So that's what the main benefit of having that is here. So like, the second thing where sessions are started, read, and destroyed, this is where functions actually acquires the session data based on what the user's doing. So if they're logging in, logging out, etc. That's just a quick example, but we also use it many other times throughout the question making as well. And that's the best part about cookies is that you can now store all of that public information on those leaderboards and make it so that every data point and entry stays the same and all lines up with one another, making it a pretty clean looking model.
Exactly. Just like Brock was saying, we want it to just stay consistent, like one long journey. You don't want to load the next page and your data from the previous page doesn't load in, right? We don't want that happening at all. Then here we have our game logic. We have, as you can see in the picture, for the question picker. Why we think that's better. It feels like a real game show ladder instead of a random pile of questions, really. Every run is different. So every time you click a new game session, you won't be hit with the same 15 questions over and over again. We want them to feel like the real game show, so you stay on your toes and don't know what's going to happen next. We also have our answer slash pass slash walk away logic. So whenever we show the demo, you'll see every player has one pass lifetime. If they don't know the answer, they can pass that question along and go on to the next question. It also have the walk away and keeps earning current winnings. So if you feel like you've had enough and you've won enough, you can walk away with your earnings and get put on the leaderboard and see how you place up. And we also have it built in where if you get a wrong answer, the game instantly fails and you lose all your earnings. Here we have our UI and CSS. So here you can see our theme choices and the color palette. We have 4 distinct colors. We have night blue, panel, gold accent, and a headline gold. We went with gold, night blue design as we felt it was wealthy, right? You want to be a millionaire. You want to feel like a millionaire, and you also want to see and act like a millionaire. And here's our animation code where you can see like where we have the fixed position. So this little snippet of code is for the backdrop. You'll see coins falling in the background. You'll see that in the demo. You can kind of see it where it says what we did. You see the little gold circles, that are coins as they fall in the background. We use Flexbox in the nav and button rows. We use CSS grid for each page section and answer card spacing. We use responsive media query, collapses the nav itself and makes the buttons full width on smaller screens. So just imagine using it on a mobile device rather than the desktop itself. And we also have label slash input associations, which improve the accessibility and keyboard use on forms.
Yeah, I can talk about these,
Next.
Jay. So
Okay.
our implementation defense is pretty simple. So our full feature trace is we chose our answer submission to be in game.php because we wanted to directly connect to the other forms that the user is actually seeing. So that's the processing, validation, session updating, and final output. So the user selects an answer using radio buttons, and then on the game page, they actually submit the form with post. And so when the PHP is actually processed, we can actually read all the values that the user was using throughout the game show process, and then compare to the current and post and correct answer to get the actual result. And so based on these results, it will actually lead into our other things, which is like the level, current winnings, and feedback. And this will direct us to, what the user's doing. If they get it right, they get to move on. If they don't, they have to go to the results page. And if they are in the middle, they kind of just get to sit there and, think about their question and if they want to pass on or something else. So a big bug Jay and I had was trying to get the scores to actually not go on the leaderboard every time. So like regardless of what we did, that score ended up on the leaderboard. If they lost, if they won, if they passed, if they walked away, if it didn't matter what it was, the um, you know amount that the user earned, even if it was zero, would end up on the leaderboard. And so this was caused because after a correct answer, there was no redirect. And so we had to actually go in there and fix the post and get a good flow going on to actually fix it. So the third thing was the architecture trade-off. So we use sessions instead of URL parameters. This kept the progress, winnings, and authentication state off the URL, so keeping it close knit. And this used multiple PHP files with that include, a giant file, which is that game.php, which makes it easier to debug, maintain, present. But the trade-off is that there is more files, but we get a way better structure and everything is way easier to find. So yes, we could have done this all in one file and just having a host, but instead we decided to go with a multiple file approach. Okay, so we have the last two for implementation defense. So our data integrity. So we wanted to make sure our app was not just getting any input. So we, instated a bad input catcher so that before it changes states, it would actually deny it. So empty answers, missing sessions, duplicate usernames, they're all blocked cleanly, and the user will get feedback without the application crashing because that was happening in the intro stages, but this was a good way to make sure that user only can input certain things. And then for our fragile area plus refactor plan, our most fragile area to the other degree of D3 is our game.php because it is most of our bulk. It's where the user is going to spend their most time. It's where all of our handling is, and it's where a lot of the logic actually is stored. So we could move a lot of these things into different files, and should just basically just have it use helper functions instead. Um, and so that's like a good way to actually refactor it in the future. So we have our little daily stand-up log here that I can show. Okay, so yeah, here is our doc file with all of our fun stand-up stuff. Jay and I took the approach as we are going to attack this, in our own little, universes, I guess you could say. We met with each other, but we both are very confident in each other's coding ability. And so we just let each other do our own things. So from day one, and day one through, around 8 or so, it was mostly planning. We really wanted to make sure we were, going at this at the right direction, don't you think, Jay?
Yeah, because we don't ever meet up usually since we live away kind of far. So we were just brainstorming for the most of the part.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can see here from these couple days, we were really just brainstorming. And around day 9, 10, and 11, that's when Jay and I actually started coding. So I was basically, I was here. I said that I was going to start working on the game.php, but I was really just mapping it out. Um, Day 9, I started actually finishing up this work. And then Jay started actually finalizing our CSS, which we did on day 12. So we were really planning this out. And that made it so easy because in the grand scheme of things, we were able to figure out exactly what we wanted to do, and it was easy to implement because we had put so much thought behind it already because of these stand-up meetings that we had over Discord. And so these are just some notes we had based on our little day meetings, and that was a big portion of our thing. And so now here is our main page, the fun stuff, our demo. So originally the user will see this. This is what the user would be shown during their first ever search of the website, which is our index page. This is what they see. They get the intro, do you think you have the skills to be a billionaire? Some helpful information for how it actually works, and a little banter to see if they could actually measure up. We also gave the option to see the leaderboard early, so you can actually see what you're actually going to have to go up against. And here is our register page. So we will name this demo. We'll do demo, confirm our password here, and we will register. So that is successful. Now let's log in. And as you can see, this is pushed like Jay was talking about earlier. So we have our previous data and it's pushed onto the other pages. So, you know, you already have your username in there because we know that you just made that account. So let's go ahead and sign in. We signed in here. So now we are signed in. Let's go ahead and start our game. So first question off, we have how many days are there in a leap year? So I'm going to take a guess here and say there's 366, which is correct. And we are now moving on to the next question. And so how it's stored, and you know, Jay mentioned this in the PowerPoint, we have easy, medium, and hard questions. So as you progress through the questions, the difficulty will increase. So we have now, what is the red planet? We're going to go with Mars here. What is the capital of France? We can go with Paris. As you can see, prizes going up. Our winning so far is 300, and we still have our one pass. What is the largest ocean on Earth? We're going to go with Atlantic. That is wrong. So we win $0. Why did we win $0? We won $0 because we did not reach a checkpoint. Checkpoints are every 5, so that's 5, 10, and then 15 is obviously a million. Let's go ahead and play again. So what is our famous mouse, or what famous mouse is Disney's mascot? Well, that's Mickey Mouse. And as you can see, the questions are different because it's seeding questions randomly using our AI algorithm. What color are emeralds? We'll go with green. What is the largest ocean on Earth? Pacific. Which instrument has 88 keys? Piano. Which holiday is known for pumpkins? Halloween. Who painted the Mona Lisa? Vincent van Gogh. Okay, that was wrong. But we still won $1,000. Why? We reached that 5 checkpoint. So we'll hit play again here. So we'll go with the piano, Pacific, Mickey Mouse, famous for saying moo, that's cow. H2O is more commonly called water. Who painted the Mona Lisa? Da Vinci. Which famous wizard attends Hogwarts? Harry Potter. Who is the name? What is the name of the toy cowboy in Toy Story? That's Woody. Which element has the chemical symbol AU? Gold. Which continent is the Sahara Desert located in? Okay, so I really don't know this question, and I'm about to reach the checkpoint, but I just don't know the answer. Is it worth risking it? Probably not. So I'm just going to walk away here. And I walk away with 16,000. And if I view that leaderboard, there's my attempt right here. Demo 1, we hit 16,000. And my previous one where I hit that checkpoint but lost, it's on there too. But the one where I only got 2 questions correct, that's not on there because we won no money. And so we wanted to make sure that that was coherent and that everything's set up right. Even if you got questions right and you got that one wrong and didn't reach the checkpoint, you're still getting booted down to 0. And that was a huge, very important part for us. So that's our main website. And so now we're going to go into the GitHub and code. So our GitHub here is a storage of all of our different commits, and we have multiple branches. So we have our dev 1 and dev 2. So if we go to dev 1, that is my branch, and I mainly worked on the game.php. That was my big contribution to this project. So that is our actual game file where everything is actually happening behind the scenes, you know, seeding the questions, actually passing on, keeping all the sessions stored. So all that fun stuff. And then on the other side of the things, we have Jay's branch, which he can talk to you about, but he mainly did the CSS and more front end stuff. So Jay was actually the mastermind behind our great design here. You know, you can see the coins falling down and then the bright gold buttons with the nice blue background, which it looks phenomenal. He handled all of that and how the leaderboard looks with the backdrop and like the nice little words and stuff like that. Jay mainly handled that. Anything you want to say, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, with the style CSS, my main focus really was to have a consistent theme that really Made you feel wealthy, right? I used a dark royal blue, nice little gold, and the coin effect is something we learned previously in a class, so I wanted to implement that. If Brock, if you could show that real quick, we used keyframes, you see right there with the falling animation. So that's something we learned later, earlier in class, and I wanted to implement that into our project.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks, phenomenal. So now we're going to go into our actual code here. So just because we're on the topic of it, here's our CSS. It's broken down very simply. All of the radio buttons and nav and all that fun stuff is all sectioned to the same color scheme and animations. So they all have the same hover animation because we wanted it to feel coherent. We don't want it all over the place. We wanted a simple but wealthy design, like Jay said, and he nailed that. And we got the coin fall here. This is our money rain that we learned about. We well not learned about, but we saw Professor Henry do this in class, and so we tried to take his Sakura Blossom, Spring Blossom theme and kind of translate that into our project here. So a perfect example of what that would look like if we started on our index page, this is the animation here. So we have the different coins and when they fall, what direction they fall, the difference between them, distance, all that fun stuff. And this is the main page that you get to see. That first page we showed you guys, this is our index page. We have our intro here in that main container. We have the actual cards, the heroes, that little information panel. All that stuff is stored in our index file. We also have another big one, which is our game. And the game one is, what I worked on closely, and it's where all of the actual information is stored. So we start here. We basically choose the question difficulty, which is that right thing. Then it's going to be shuffling through our questions, which I can show here is a big thing full of our questions and it just has all of our questions, but they all have a difficulty level, and that's how it's shuffled. So it shuffles randomly based on the difficulty level. Then we have all of our sessions, which is all that saved data at the top that you see when you're playing the actual game. It actually will update based on the user inputs and what is actually happening in the game. We also have here, which is the level and where it will actually go past based on the amount of money. So it'll actually end after the 15 questions because you'll reach a million. And if this right here is if you try to pass and you're trying to get out of another one and try to pass again, well, you can't. You only get one of those. So if you don't choose an answer, it'll tell you to please choose an answer. Here is the checkpoints that we were talking about earlier. So every 5, you get a nice little checkpoint if you lose. And then this is the actual HTML that the user gets to see and what we actually get to, have fun with when we're actually playing the game. So this is our login screen. It's pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference is it actually has to file specific constraints based on what the actual user is inputting for the logins, because you can't just log in with any random thing. You actually have to register first. And then this is the HTML. So here's our registration, which is a bit more confusing, but the registration which makes it work is right here. So we have all of the different fields that you have to follow to actually register an account. Your username has to be between 3 and 20 characters. Your password has to be at least 4 characters with a number, so on and so forth. And this is the HTML that the user actually gets to see. So the results is what you got to see, like, hey, you won $0. Hey, you won 1,000. Hey, you won 32. It's kind of like the middle page between the game and the actual leaderboard. So that's this page right here. And these are the different messages you'll get to see. So if you're over 1 million or you made 1 million, sorry, you walked away with all your winnings. Or no, sorry, this is if you walked away. If you win 1 million, the game's over. If it's anything less than 1 million or equal to, or anything greater than or equal to, you get the congratulations. If it's anything over 0, you earned a solid amount. However, you lost. You don't get to keep anything. Here is the actual HTML and what the user gets to see. Same thing. Here's our animation, all the different headers here, or the navigation bar, I mean, and then the actual result window. Log out's pretty simple. It's just our log out session. It'll just bring you back to that original index page, completely logged out. And then the data here, it'll have, for example, is the leaderboard. It'll just save our leaderboard text. And this actually writes individually. It's obviously saved to the FileZilla Cloud COD storage, but if we pulled it over, it'll have all of our data and all that stuff will be saved there. So yeah, that's a good little rundown of our website, MellowMillionare. We hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching.
Cool. You want